Hello, everybody. What I'd like to do now is to give you a demonstration of how TrueFort protects against 0 days. But 0 day attacks are just that. They're usually software vulnerability attacks that are unbeknownst to the users and even the manufacturers or the vendors of the software, i.e. the term 0 day. No one really understands or knows about it. It's a bad actor, a hacker, a criminal organization that with very smart people have discovered a vulnerability within a piece of software. And they're taking advantage of that. And normally we'll see that with SQL injections, some sort, and various other types of vulnerabilities being taken advantage of. The latest one in the news not too long ago was the MoveIt vulnerability that affected many, many users. MoveIt, a company, an FTP type service, secure FTP, that had a software vulnerability in it. And that's what I want to show you the demo here in regards to it's based on the MoveIt demo. So MoveIt was a SQL injection into a front-end IAS web server that created a new home2.aspx file, and then allowed a remote shell back in and allowed the bad actor to remote desktop, compromise the Windows user account, and gain access to those systems, and then be able to get into that front-end IAS web server and try to laterally move in the environment. So I'm going to concentrate on that with my demonstration, that SQL injection, that bad happening. Kind of set the stage for you within TrueFort Platform. This is our e-commerce application. It's a web server, SQL server, and a MongoDB server. The web server itself is Windows. It's running IaaS, the same with SQL. So it's mimicking partially a MoveIt FTP environment, is running FTP services and so forth. And what I've done is I've profiled the network. I've profiled the software that's running within that environment so we can see what's installed, profiled the processes and the identity of who accesses that server. So we can see that the administrator in my demonstration case is the only person that is accessing this machine. And so I've compiled them, pushed them out to where I have TrueFort agents in the environment. If we were running third-party support with CrowdStrike or SentinelOne, I could push them out to those agents also. Let's go back to the network so we can see our network. So I pushed this out as a segmentation policy along with the process, the file integrity, so I understand and know the files that are running in the environment. So I can see I'm monitoring my www root directory here, the home.aspx file. So I'll know and understand if there are any changes to that file or folder structure in the environment. I've also have rule packs to take action and generate alerts. So you can see we don't have any alerts here. So let's get into the demonstration. Let's go back to my ransomware machine. So this is a machine that's on the internet. I'm going to run a SQL injection here, and I'm going to do a few other things very quickly, copy files and so forth, into that IAS server. So the IAS server is open to the internet, right? It has port 80, 443, and FTP open. They're legitimate connections to run this application. And the customer, if I set the stage for them, think that they have it secured. They have a firewall in place that's only allowing access to those machines. Then those machines being in a DMZ, but the problem is that they have to have access to that DMZ environment to go further into the network. So that's really a simple network installation, simple firewall protection in the environment in what I'm mimicking here. So I'm going to run this really quickly. It's going to go through very fast. I've done my injection. I've created and copied a file. And if I go to the machine that we're looking at here, so you can see I've put that home2.aspx file here in this machine. I'm able to log on. I've taken the service account, a compromised ID, and I've added it to the remote desktop environment here. If I'm logged in as administrator right now, if I sign out of this machine and I log back into it as that service account, it shouldn't have access to log into that machine. So if I use a different account here, I'm going to use service account. We'll put the password in here. Again, this is a compromised account. This is an account where the password is compromised. So when I log in, it's not going to give a bad password. It's going to look legitimate to the security products or whatever they're using internally to get to that machine, but it shouldn't have remote access. So internally, how do I identify this? How do I understand that an account without a bad password is in my network and being used, right? TrueFort can help you identify that. So I'm on the account, I'm in the machine, I'm going to try to run an Nmap. So I'm going to run an Nmap scan in the environment, because that's typically what they're going to do in a lateral movement case scenario. Maybe I'm going to run this and scan around the environment. So to do a quick scan in the environment to see what's open, see what's going on, and so forth in the environment. Maybe I install software. I can run maybe a notepad here that I want to do certain things. Maybe I want to run a file FTP site. So you can see I'm scanning around in the environment. I'm making connections into the environment all the time, logged in as a different user. So, how, unbeknownst to anyone in the IT, in operations, this is happening. So I'm doing all that in the machine. So let's go and look. Look, we're generating a bunch of alerts, right? So we've generated, there's connections here. If I double click on this first one, we can see there is a UDP connection that's not part of the ecom. So it's not part of our profile. So we've gone and killed that connection. We can see that there's new processes starting. We can see that there ran an Nmap here, and we can see that they're scanning that range 31254. So all of these alerts will be sounding alarm bells within the organization, as these alerts would go to their SIM and so forth. If I had workflows in here to kill that process, I could do that. I could kill that right away. But you can see we're generating these alerts, and we are taking action in the environment to protect the environment. So if I go back to the server, it's business as usual here for this user up until the SOC team, the operations team, understands that, hey, within minutes, this is a compromised server. So they can take this server out of the environment, they can quarantine it, and understand those connections. Let me just log out of the service account. I'm going to sign out. And let me come back to reveal. So we're seeing alerts. We're seeing connections processed with our workflows. So if I go to annotations, you can see within a second that we're blocking. So we're blocking IPs. We're blocking connections. This is setting alarm bells off in the SOC. They're going to come in, be able to take action in this environment. If I go to our realm view, for instance, I can come in and I can see what's happening here. I can go down deep into this and I can see, wow, that looks interesting. Look at that. I can see that scan taking place in the environment. If I go to the process, we can see here directly, oh, there's the Nmap that's running. So I have the ability in Realm View to visualize what's happening in the environment. So we can see what's happening. I can also pause this view. It's a real-time view. And I can go to a timeline and understand, hey, when did this start happening? Oh, I can see everything was normal, 5 minutes ago or an hour ago. But at 9:05 or 9:05 in a few minutes, I can see that, hey, that's happening in that environment. So we can see that with our playback in the environment. If you're interested in more information or learning more, please go to www.truefort.com.